Right, it's that time again, kids. We're back to Citizen Frames Halloween month and a half, which is actually now going to be probably Halloween month and 3/4.
Or 2 months.
Yeah, because we've added to the library here because we're kind. All right. Well, I am. Trevor,
Well, that's debatable.
We have a viewer who wants us to do a review for them, and we decided to pepper it because it's a good movie to do for Halloween month and 3/4 now. And Trevor says, "Fuck him. I don't care about our viewers." And I say, "Whoa, what? He's a very loyal listener." He's like, "Fuck him. I want to don't you take away from my Hallmark movie that I'm about to pick." So
I would never say that, Frank.
No,
you know that?
No. Frank sent me an email very upset with some of the words you said to him. But yeah, we're gonna do that next. We're peppering werewolves. And then we've got Barbarian. Then we're doing Weapons. Then we're going to actually do a film that did well, independent. It's a Stephen King film called The Long Walk. That's now available on demand. So we thought that'd be fun to pepper that in, and then we'll end with. We started with the Italian horror. We'll end with Italian horror with Dario Argento's probably most beloved film, Suspiria. And then so that should take us pretty much to the end of November.
Or December, we'll see. Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, no. More. Yeah, it would be November because we're actually going to try to do another Stephen King. The Running Man's coming out in November. So we did The Running Man before, but we might just do a double feature on that one. The original Running Man and the new Running Man as one big podcast special. I think that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah. I am a big fan of the original.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Well, it's Yaphet Kotto in a very tightly fitting suit.
You seem to always go to that. That's cool, man. That's your bell. Ring it. That's cool, man. That's cool. That's who you are. Embrace Trevor. Embrace Yaphet Kotto in tights. That's fine.
Yeah, I'll be back only in a rerun.
Yeah. But today, before we start, this is spoiler filled from the very opening. So if you have not seen Black Phone 2, where the fuck have you been? Everyone else is seeing it. It's made a lot of money. Very happy to hear that. And so if you haven't seen it, well, you're screwed because I'm about to spoil it. I had to sip my coffee there.
Right. Waking you up because this is another early morning.
Yeah, we're doing a couple of these.
I had to interrupt my beauty sleep just because I'm so committed to sort of doing these podcasts. But there you go.
Fuck that. Not that. Yeah, Black Phone 2. Well, these sequels. There was supposed to be a sequel to this, and obviously it's. Come on, I get the studios. Come on, man. We can use the money here. What the fuck? And we need another one. And good on the studio for letting Scott Derrickson have free range. Scott Derrickson is one of my favorite horror directors out there. Starting with, of course, The Haunting of The Exorcism of Emily Rose, Sinister. He just tells very good dark tales.
Also, I would add that Joe Hill, who wrote the original short story for the original film, obviously, had some input in this. Apparently, Scott Derrickson phoned him or something and said, "Well, Joe, what do you reckon?" And, in terms of the story. And Joe Hill apparently said just basically one sentence. Finney gets a phone call. It's a grabber and he's in hell. And then they basically ran with that, and built on that.
Yeah, I was... When they announced a sequel, I'm a little, oh boy, because I like The Grabber. I know you were on the fence with it. You said it was good, but it wasn't. You wanted a little more. But I enjoyed it because it was subtle with the fantasy element. Obviously, you had to have that fantasy element, and I really enjoyed Gwen's Madeline McGraw's performance as Gwen. And heads up, guys, see again, stills the show. She's very good.
She has a bright future ahead of her.
Yeah. A lot of people.
And so does the young actor who plays Finney, to be fair.
Yeah, Mason Thames. He's he's a trained ballet dancer.
Right.
There you go. But yeah, you keep the source material. I always say if you're doing a sequel, keep true to the original, but tweak it and make it your own. They fucking do that here. I was concerned that they were going to go the Freddy Krueger route, but they don't. They do. I'm not going to say they don't. They do, but it's a lot better executed, I guess you could say, on how they handle it and how they handled, unlike how they handled Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, which was fucking god awful.
Well, there's definitely allusions to certainly the first Nightmare on Elm Street and the third one, but in terms of the portrayal of the grabber, it's still very dark and sinister as opposed to the route that went with Freddy Krueger, where after the first one he became a sort of wisecracking dark comedy character.
Yeah. So yeah,
He's not basically the grabber's not doing a rap or anything in this, or welcome to prime time, bitch.
yeah, he has his jokes in this, the grabber, but they're sinister. They're not
They're
nice,
dark.
They're
Yeah.
dark. But yeah, he's got the original team back. He's got one thing I want to bring up: the music is by a guy called Atticus Derrickson. I'm assuming there's a relation there.
I was thinking that too. It's a superb score.
The score is like which is funny because it almost has a Nine Inch Nails feel to it, which is Atticus. Atticus and Trent Reznor both do Nine Inch Nails, but this is a different Atticus. That's
Right,
Atticus
yeah.
Finch, I believe, who's in Nine Inch Nails. This is Atticus Derrickson. But yeah, there's a Nine Inch Nails vibe to it. And we'll dive into the intro real quick here. But I also want to give a massive shout out because I'm not sure how the film was shot, to be honest with you, to the DP. His name is Pari Ekberg. And the film was shot in Ontario, I believe, in Canada. And I was a little confused what was shot outside, and it almost feels like the campground. Besides some of the outdoor shots, but there's one of the famous locations is a phone booth by a lake. It almost feels like it's set on a stage with a matte painting in the background of the actual lake and the mountains and stuff. It's beautiful.
Right.
It almost plays like this film. I know it sounds funny. Almost before we get to the big extravaganza ending, the film almost plays like a stage play and almost like a 10 Little Indians, like an Agatha Christie mystery, because it's a lot more isolated than when we had it for the first one.
Well, I didn't get the sort of, you were saying, with the phone booth, the phone box essentially at the lake. I didn't get sort of vibes of, it felt like a matte painting and stuff, but, it's beautiful scenery, obviously, be it in Ontario or wherever it is, in Canada. But I would say the way it's filmed, the different styles of filming and the different styles of look for the dream sequences work really effectively well.
Yes. Yeah. Scott Derrickson.
It's a beautiful looking film.
Scott Derrickson
Overall.
Scott Derrickson loves Super 8.
Yeah.
He made it famous in Sinister.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just,
I would say as well that regarding the score, on top of that, the soundtrack, there's some great songs, that are part of the soundtrack and not the score. There's a use of Pink Floyd's "Another Brick in the Wall."
Yeah.
The album version, it's "Another Brick in the Wall" Part 1, which is absolutely fantastic, really effective.
Wasn't that a cover song, or was that the actual Pink Floyd?
No, that's the actual. See, there's "Another Brick in the Wall" parts 1, 2, and 3, and the more famous one is part 2. Where it's the kids and stuff going. But this is part 1, so it is Pink Floyd, but it's the part 1 from the album.
All right, guys. As we mentioned, spoiler filled, so we're gonna jump into this right now. All right, we got Mason Thames, who plays Finn, Ethan Hawke, who's the grabber, Madeline McCraw as Gwen, Jeremy Davis is back as Pa, Miguel Mora, good on him. He's a returning actor. He plays a character called Ernesto. He played one of the victims in the last film. He played Ernesto's brother who died, who was Robin in the last film. I'd love to see him. Damien Bichir, he plays Mando. I've always been a fan of his ever since I saw him in The Hateful Eight. Then you got Hope, Felix, and Barbara and Kenneth, who are the Christians. They were annoying as fuck.
They were meant to be.
Here's the plot, guys. So plug your ears. All right, so around 1954, 3 children are killed and have vanished. Their names are Felix, Cal, and Spike. They die horribly. One is burned alive, then chopped up. One is cut in half in the face, and the other one is, I think, drowned. I can't remember what happens to the other one. They can't find the bodies, and the mystery is never solved. But this was done by a younger grabber. This is when the grabber was just a kid.
This is how he started off on his dark journey.
Exactly. Now, the children's spirits are lingering, giving the grabber power to return as a supernatural entity. Finn and Gwen must find the remains of these three boys to be able to defeat the grabber. So there's your plot.
Yeah.
Very, very Nightmare on Elm Street, to be honest with you.
And they also, yeah, they end up going to this camp, and they essentially sign up to train for it on the surface. But really, what they're doing is it's a Christian camp, and they basically sign up to basically be Christian counselors. But really, they're out to stop the grabber. You know what really stuck out for me? The Latino girl who is at the camp.
Mustang.
Yes, you know what she was in recently? A Working Man with Jason Statham.
So you
So,
work with Jason Statham, you get roles.
well, this is it. The beekeeper.
That's a beekeeper. That's a lot better. Sounds just like him. All right, the
Right?
movie takes place 4 years later, and everything's kind of still the same. Gwen and Finn is kind of has not really bounced back. He's not dealing well with
He's angry.
how what happened with the grabber. He's very angry, upset. The one thing this film gets right, and it's wonderful, is the character arcs. And the character arcs in this one, and you don't get that with horror films a lot. You really don't. So they really hit it home, and it's the actor's performance that sell it, to be honest with you. But yeah, so we open up with a phone call. What's it, 1954, I guess? A young lady gets a phone call, and she's having a conversation with somebody. We don't know what that conversation is. This phone booth's in the middle of a camp, right now overlooking the lake, and she can't. The phone disconnects, and then we fade to modern day. Well, I think it's the 80s now.
Early 80s.
4 years later, so we don't know about the phone call, what that was all about as of yet. I love films where sequel events come full circle. You know what I mean? We talked about that. You know, Tarantino does it all the time, where a scene will be peppered in, but we don't know what happened to that scene until about 40 minutes into it.
Yeah.
Why that scene
It
was
all
so
comes together.
Yeah,
as part of a narrative.
Yeah, why that scene was so relevant. Now we know the brother, he's not handling things well. He's got a violent temper. He's beating the shit out of someone who made some kind of smart ass comment to him. In all fairness,
He's getting into fights and stuff at school.
Yeah, sounds like the kid deserved it, to be honest with you. And Gwen, Gwen is getting nightmares now. So as you guys all know from the last one, she had a premonition. Well, her premonitions are becoming more real now, and we find out that's the one thing she has in common with her mother.
Yeah, it's like a sixth sense. She has like a certain power, a supernatural power, like the mother had before her. You know, before the mother committed suicide. But yes, she has sort of inherited that sort of sixth sense power.
Yeah, and she's seeing these images of these kids underneath the water. Very, very. I gotta realize these are young. These are probably preteen kids, and they're coming up from underneath the water, but they're covered in ice. Obviously, the water's covered in ice, and they're scraping in these words. And she finds out their initials, WBH, and we'll get to that in a moment, why that's relevant. But she wants to find out what's going on. But she does, through these dreams, process of elimination, figure out it's this Alpine camp, Christian camp. So they sign up to get jobs to figure out what's up. Problem is they get snowbound at the camp, so there's only a few people here, and this is where the chaos begins. Great little setup, very fun, fast-paced, great dialogue, and
it doesn't mess about.
Yeah,
yeah. And I you know, going into this, I'd read and listened to some other reviews of it, and people were saying, "Oh, it's basically Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors." So I was a little concerned because although I'm a fan of Dream Warriors, it is fantasy cartoonish at times. So I was a bit concerned, you know, with those comments. But I would say myself, after watching it, it's more in tone and referential to the first Nightmare on Elm Street. There's one scene in particular with her, with the sister, where it's obviously a big reference to Tina's death in A Nightmare on Elm Street 1. It's whenever they're at the Christian camp, and she's basically being sort of thrown about the room in her dream, but also happening in the real world, and everybody's, freaked out and stuff. So, in terms of, the references to the Nightmare on Elm Street series, for me, it was more the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, that's when he's trying to throw her in the oven.
Yes.
And because the grabber's MO here is he wants to get revenge on Finn because Finn is the one who technically killed him. So, and Grabber also finds Finn responsible for the Grabber accidentally killing his brother or making him kill his brother, who has a small cameo in it, by the way. But so the Grabber feels that you took away something I love. Now I have to take away something you love. So that's why his target is
The
Gwen.
sister. Yeah.
I like that. I kind of like that.
It makes sense.
Yeah. And like when I said in the beginning, you stick true to the original, it does. And we always think about, well, he's calling now. Well, if the kids could make the phone calls to help Finn in the first one, why can't he make phone calls when he's dead? So they just flip the tables, and I kind of enjoy that.
Yes. Yeah. And it definitely works. Again, I was concerned going into it because I thought it was going to, after the first one being quite grim and serious, I thought this was going to be silly in terms of, them turning them into a Freddy Krueger in the sequels as opposed to the original Freddy Krueger in the first one. But no, it does make sense and it does work very well.
When we're introduced to, there's really Mustang, Mando, Ernesto, Terrence, Gwen, the Grabber, Finn, and then Barbara and Kenneth are really the only ones in this film because they're, like I said, they're snowbound. And there's a couple things I didn't like, and I wish Finn said something because Finn at this time was still kind of pissed and still trying to come to terms with what happened between him and the Grabber. And there's a scene where they're having breakfast with the counselors and so forth, and Mando. Mando's tired, and Mando's a good guy. He's a good character. Don't get me wrong, but he turns to there's rules in their camp, and there's the night before the sister went to the boys' cabin, and she spent the night there because she was scared and having nightmares. And Mando goes, "No girls in the boys' tents, whatever." And
dormitory, yeah.
If I was Finn, that would have been a good scene for him to go fuck yourself. That's my fucking sister you're talking about. And
well, it would have played into sort of Finn's rage and anger that we got earlier on.
If anyone said that to me, I'd be fucking. What do you think me and my sister were doing? You sick fuck.
Yeah.
I know. I would have called them out.
Yeah. Although Finn's arc, on his anger and making peace with his anger is sort of followed through, there were sort of, there could have been more opportunities for it to be done sort of in more detail type thing. I would say as well that there's also allusions. I'm sort of getting off point here, but specifically, but there's sort of allusions here to the Friday the 13th series with the camp, with them being stranded in a camp with a basically supernatural killer on the rampage.
Well, I do think it's a nice. I like the fact he made a first film, which is his own, something original, thanks to Joe Hill and all, and he came up with something different. This one almost plays like, yeah, I'll do a sequel, but I'm going to make it a nod to some of the films I liked growing up.
Yes, yeah. So there's definite allusions to the Friday the 13th series with them being at the camp.
Yeah, the settings. Well, that's why I said you also had like an Agatha Christie feel. There's great moments.
Well, you said earlier that it felt like a stage play. And the more I think about it, yeah, I agree with that. And even I got a certain Hateful Eight vibe, which you also referenced earlier.
Yeah.
Just the fact, stranded in this basically one setting and snowbound, and, there's a lot of bad stuff and violence going on. So there are certain things going on, allusions to other sort of films and series.
And as we talk about it, I start appreciating the film even more. And there's wonderful moments when Gwen is under, and she's having nightmares, but she's sleepwalking in the nightmares, so she is not sleeping, There's some inconsistency there. Sometimes she is, sometimes she's not. But mainly when she's in a nightmare, she's sleepwalking or under a trance. And so there's a scene where everyone's trying to find her, and there's a blizzard going on, and she's kind of going to cabin, and that's when the grabber finds her and tries to chuck her in the oven. But at the
Yes,
same
that's a very good scene.
yeah, at the same time, Finn and Ernesto and Ando are trying to find her, and it builds tension really, really well because as they're trying to find her, she's being pretty much ripped apart and cut, and there's blood everywhere, and she's being brutalized. And
Yeah,
again,
it's Tina's death in Nightmare on Elm Street.
yeah, and again, she's a 16-year-old girl in this, so that makes it more brutal. And now, some people, there's not a lot of body count, and I thought about this too. And I said, well, there wasn't body count in the first one, besides the brother. The body count's already happened. The missing kids. That's the body count. You don't need to see that. In this one, there's not a body count, but however, you do have the 3 missing kids that he killed. There's body count, and you see what he's done to them. It's brutal.
I would have liked to have seen, of the main players here at the cabin, 1 or 2 deaths of them, essentially just to create more tension and more threat from the grabber. And while we don't get that, maybe Scott Derrickson was sort of subverting the expectations of a slasher type film where there has to be a body count, and
Yeah.
and yeah, fair enough if he is doing that, but I do feel, I know that the guy who runs the sort of this camp, he does get injured badly, but he doesn't die, from the grabber later on. But I don't know. For me personally, I do think stuff, deaths of sort of main players does increase tension and threat of the grabber.
Yeah, I like the fact that the grabber's whole thing is Gwen, Gwen, Gwen. He doesn't lose
Yeah,
focus on his target. So that's why the other ones kind of get a pass. Now, there's a Christian couple in this. Fucking hated them. I hated it.
you're
Now
mad too.
they
Yeah.
get hurt and stuff pretty good because we want to see them get hurt. Now, if you want casualties, yeah, let them have it. But I got one flaw here, and it could be considered a big one. So we find out that what's his name, Mando, bought the place years ago, and he promised one of the parents of the missing children that he'd find the bodies. Now he's been searching for years as he's on this camp looking for these bodies, and so have the police and so forth. And of course, case closed. Nothing we can do about it. We're done. People have given up. But they're like, "Oh, check the lake." Well, yeah. I would have checked the lake? The first thing I would have checked. So I was a
Yeah,
little.
exactly. The first place you would have checked, or one of the first places, would have been the lake.
Yeah. He's like, "Oh, there's another lake just down the road here." Okay. Why didn't you check? So I thought that was a little, I'll give it, I'm forgiving it, but I thought that was a little, okay, come on, really? Um,
I mean, I do feel that this is very strong overall. In fact, I would even go as far as saying I think it's better than the first one. But one thing that did niggle me was the more corny, cheesy stuff with the mother. Yes, now I said earlier on that she committed suicide, but find out later on that she actually didn't. It was set up, and she was actually murdered by the grabber, in one of the dream sequences later on. But some of the stuff with the mother did feel a little corny to me, and almost like, those Conjuring films,
yeah,
with their cheese.
I thought about it and what Gwen has gone through the last 2 films and what she went through in this one especially. You needed her for her arc. You needed that. She needed that
In
moment.
terms of the narrative, it does work, but at times I did feel it was a little corny, especially at the very end.
We'll talk about the ending in a moment here. I do like when she finds out that they're looking at a picture and they say, "Oh, that's Bill." And it's a young kid. We find out it's a young version of it's the young grabber before he became the
Yes,
grabber. And yeah, Wild Bill, we called him. The kids were putting on the ice, Wild Bill Hickok,
yes,
WBH. And that's how they put the pieces together, who this guy is. It's the grabber.
yeah.
The conversations between him and Finn are really good. And you don't see much of Ethan. Ethan's not in it as much as you think until
And he's
the
heavily made up
finale.
as well.
What was that?
He's heavy with the makeup as well, the grabber makeup, which I liked. And yeah, I think it's good with a villain like the grabber to keep him in the shadows and don't have him sort of revealed. Whereas in the Friday the 13th, sorry, the Nightmare on Elm Street sequels, you've seen a bit too much of Freddy with his wisecracking jokes, but here the grabber is kept in the shadows, and I think that's the best way.
In
So
the,
it
in
is.
the,
It
in
makes him much more sinister.
the original phone book, he broke his neck.
Yeah.
The house doesn't burn down or anything, right? He just kills him, breaks his neck, right?
No, I think I would have to watch it again. I think the house might burn down. I think
It
something
doesn't.
does happen
No,
to
it
the house.
doesn't.
I
So
don't
the
know.
reason I asked that, this is makes it even more clever. When the grabber's revealed, his face is all torn skin and
Messed
stuff.
up.
He's not decaying. I think it's frostbite.
I mean, he does say as well, whenever he does those sinister phone calls, that hell isn't burning because he's in hell. It's
Oh, okay.
basically you're freezing to death. So it's like maybe ice burns, deep ice burns from hell. Or his hell, his personal hell that the grabber's in is ice based. So I don't know. Yeah, but that does. He looks cool. Let's just
Yeah,
say,
it's pretty cool.
uh, and it's very good makeup.
Some of the DP work in this, some of the best work is the ending sequence. They decide they got to go. The plot
He
borrows
becomes an ice hockey star.
the plot borrows from Ghost Story. Ghost Story is one of
Yes,
my favorites, guys. 1981. Check it
Peter
out.
Straub.
Lawrence Olivier, Fred Astaire, wonderful. Peter Straub's novel. But spoiler alert, if you guys haven't seen Ghost Story, I'm going to give this away. This woman is haunting these people, and they have to figure out how to stop the woman. They figure out find the bodies, find the body. So, well, that's kind of cliche actually in most horror films.
But yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of horror films do that.
Poltergeist even does it. So they have to go get and they find these oil barrels that the three kids their bodies are in, and Gwen is in complete hypnotic state, so she just jumps in. She's like almost like you're right, Dream Warriors state now. She's invincible, and as they're fighting, but as they're doing that, they're fighting the grabber, and there's some wonderful moments here with the grabber. There's a great shot of him coming toward us, and you got this fog bank and the cold of snow, and you see this figure coming with through the as he's skating toward us with the mask on.
Yes.
It's a wonderful shot. Again, I think that's homage to a film called Curtains. Curtains does the exact same thing. It's creepy as hell. Guys, check that one out. Curtains. Again, this film is, I think, really a nod to the hat to a lot of his influences.
Yeah, I mean, just that scene with the grabber, doing the basically the ice hockey skating thing, it does look like so much of this film. Looks cracking. It looks beautifully shot.
It is. It is. And I do think it almost looks like a stage. And I think that some of this was, but it doesn't matter. It actually makes it more beautiful.
Yeah.
But this whole sequence of events is so fun. And because the first 3/4 of it, you're just kind of stuck, you glued to your seat, good conversations, dream sequences, flashbacks with using the 8mm or using doing your stream state was done in 8mm. And you cut away to high def, then you know what the different, what reality is, what isn't. So it was a
Yes.
nice way to distinguish what was real and what wasn't. But this whole sequence is all going to be done with, you know, uh, really cool effects and just beautiful DP work. And the scene where they get the kids' bodies up, and then the grabbers now pretty much they took him out of dreamlike state, and they can kill him. He's vulnerable now.
He's basically he becomes like the drag him in the R world, but you don't see him. It's like he's the Invisible Man type thing, but that's how they get him.
And when they just beat the fuck out of him, I mean, they tear him to shreds pretty good, and they chuck him in the water. There's a shot of him and the blood coming out of his body, and then you got the darkness, but you got the white, you got the glare from the moon coming into the water, and the covered ice. It's just gorgeous of him just
Back to your icy hell with you, asshole.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is it's just a beautiful shot. Now the film does end. The father is told that because the father's always had guilt of why the mother commits suicide, and,
Yes.
and so they finally tell him mother did commit suicide, the grabber hung her because she was on to him, and that explains why Gwen caught on to him in the first movie. So a lot of knots being tied here. We're getting the whole story now, which is nice. And so the father gets emotional. Finn is dealing with, he finally has an outburst, screaming at everybody what he went through, and he finally let it all out, and that's his resolve. And then a phone rings. Now it's the mother. What they should have done here, I think, when Gwen picks up the phone, she goes, "Hi, sweetie," and then all we needed to really see is Gwen have a smile on her face, and then you should have cut away. That would have been a perfect little ending. But no, we get a little cheese motto with, "Hey, I miss you, honey. Oh, they're up here in
I
heaven with
love
me.
you.
They're up here in heaven with me." And I get it. Clearly, there's a Catholic background to Derrickson, and I actually respect that 100%. And just thought,
There's a certain religious element to a lot of Scott Derrickson's films.
all the stuff, all the stuff.
But personally, for a horror film, they could have had it. Or maybe it's because I'm a sick, twisted freak.
I'm gonna go
who
with
knows?
yes.
But I was wanting what would have really worked for me would have been if it had been the mother being all nice, but then the final sort of twist was it was actually like Freddy Krueger. It's actually the grabber fucking weir and goes, "Gotcha, bitch! Or welcome to prime time, bitch."
See, that would have been stupid.
Even better. They could have actually had it as Freddy Krueger, a cameo from Robert Englund, and saying something. "I'm here with your asshole friend, the grabber."
Yeah,
no, that would have been daft. But I would have liked a more sort of horror-esque. I'm obviously joking.
No, I mean the horror-esque thing has been done overplayed. Oh, you never got
me. Final score?
No, you don't need a final scare anymore. This isn't a slasher film. You said that yourself. This isn't a traditional. This is a Scott Derrickson who's very good in his craft. He's not going to sell out by doing a stupid jump scare at the very end. He told the story. That's it. And so he gave us complete conclusion. I just think they should.
Well, let me finish. Story.
I think they should have just cut it once the phone rang. We knew it was the mom. Put her smile on her face. That gives her closure. The end. But
I wanted it to be the grabber.
That's just stupid. Now you're just going back to
final score, and it sets up the next one.
Now that's the problem. That's the problem right there.
Because we will get a next one.
I don't think we will. I actually don't think.
No way. Well, the studios they'll demand it. If this, I believe this is doing well, and you know what, it deserves to do well because it's a very good film. And I would again say that I feel I would have to watch the first one again, but I would say that it is possibly either just as good or even better than the first one. So overall, but if this does well at the box office, which I think it deserves to, and it probably is and will, there'll definitely be a third one.
If they end up doing a third one, all new characters. New characters, including the grabber. He's gone. You get a new villain. That's one thing horror films don't get right. If you're going to do sequel, don't keep the same villain.
The well, but
you don't know. Scott Derrickson has control on this one, so I hope and I don't see him selling out. That's one thing he won't do.
I can see him bailing, but and saying,
"Yeah, he might have no choice. He might have no choice." But he quit against Marvel when Marvel wanted to complete. He said, "No, I'm done then," and he walked away. And they gave the reins to Sam Raimi. So I don't know. I hope not. I hope that they told the story. They're done. I don't want to see any more of this. I don't.
There doesn't need to be another one.
Well, according to you, there should be because you want a jump scare at the end. If there's a jump scare at the end of this, then there's a sequel coming.
I know, would have left it hanging.
No, you don't. You don't do that. What's with you and loose ends? You love a fucking loose end. It's just
because it has people, the audience, or if it's a book, the readers, but sort of looking more. But it's a teaser. You're teasing you're playing with the audience or the readership or whatever.
These films aren't teaser films. That's not
everything. Not everything has to be wrapped up on a nice little.
Yes, it does. These do.
No, they don't.
They do because you're clueless when it comes to films. You are now.
No,
you have this hard on.
Nonsense.
You have this hard on for fucking. Oh no, you don't have to give me a story. You just leave it to my imagination. And
Totally,
blah, blah,
yes,
blah.
absolutely.
And we'll have that conversation when werewolves coming up next, you fucker. So let me tell you right now. I'm telling you right now.
Oh,
This
nasty
is a
abuse.
fucking smart. Black Phone was a smart film, and it ended. The end. They got into a second one. Fine, we'll do it. They did it again. They struck lightning in a bottle twice. Good on them. They are not going to sell out by going boo. That's so. It takes away the entire
It's a
dramatic. It
horror
takes
film.
away the dramatic element you had. Why do you have to have it? So you're saying
It's a horror film.
So if it's a horror film, it has to have the cliches of a horror film. That's what you're saying.
No, but you can play around with them.
No, you can't.
I just thought this was a bit too neatly tied up on a bow. I mean, it didn't ruin it. It doesn't ruin it. But I think it would have been more fun. And yes, it would have been a little bit of a cliche to have it not really being the mother, but actually the grabber. But at the same time, I'm sort of contradicting myself in that I don't want there to be another one because I think it is all, it's all done and dusted. But being realistic, if this does well at the box office, there will be another one.
On that note, coolest twat.
No, see, I see what I have to put up with, listeners. You know what I mean? Personal abuse. It's, what can I say?
I wish that fucking phone would ring right now in your fucking head, and then you'd be like, "Hey, Trevor, you want a jump scare?" Bam.
I hope the fucking grabber gets you and fucking locks you in a basement, so I have to don't deal with your shite.
God, I love Friday mornings.
Yeah, the weekend is upon us.
Guys, check it out. It's a great film. I love it when it's
very good.
Well, very few horror sequels can really pull this off, and he's done it. A lot of people are saying this is better than the original. I still go with the original because it's more grounded. But either way, you know what's funny? The girl in this who plays Gwen, Madeline something, I can't remember. McCall. She's got almost a twin sister, but she's a year and a half younger. She's the lead in the Megan films.
I thought it was her.
I thought it was too, but she was just almost a twin, but she's a year and a half. The girl in the Megan films, I think, is a year and a half.
They look very alike.
Yeah. Very talented family. So there you go.
And also, the sister was also in the recent film that we reviewed, Life of Chuck.
Yeah, that's why I got confused. I thought it was the girl from here.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So
no. Yeah, they look alike. Yeah. They look very alike. Yeah.
They're family. So there you go. All right, guys. Next up, Werewolves fan pick. Thanks for giving us a listen. You guys in the U.S. and in Brazil, thank you so much for the massive downloads. Actually, South America in general, we have spiked. We're up 382%. It's pretty good, actually. So a massive shout out. We're a massive U.S. resurgence there. So good on you. A lot of you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, a lot of you clearly have nothing else better to do.
Get a life.
Listen to us. But thanks. It's appreciated. Give us a shout at @CitizenFrame_podcast on Instagram and, of course, Facebook. We're going to be setting up another Facebook page. That's what I've been told I should do. So we'll see what happens there. And we'll chat soon. Thanks for listening. We're out.